and welcome to You and Your Mental Health. My name is Esther Onwachuku. I'm glad to feel good. I'm glad to feel well. That's a very vital aspect of our well-being that we need to pay attention to. And that's where you and your mental health comes in. We reel out all the areas you need to understand about your mental health and how you can take care of yourself, in the process. Today, we are looking at something I feel a lot of us are currently going through. Now, there is a saying that Nigerians like to smile and suffer. But there's also another, I read it somewhere, where Nigerians are self-organizing people. They know how to make themselves happy despite how hard the situation will be. Currently, there have been few queues at most filling stations. At the automated teller machines as well, you have a lot of people struggling to get money from those machines. POS are also not given because they do not have the new Naira. Then you also have traffic gridlock across several areas across the metropolis. Lagos State is a place where if you do eventually have your state of mind sane, then you definitely have something miraculous to thank God for. So if you're in Lagos and you seem to have your mental state balanced, congratulations to you. So looking at that particular perspective and that scenario, let's talk about a couple of celebrities, well-known individuals that would love to watch on our screen express themselves on how they went through their own. All right. Now remember, on this program, we have an in-house therapist. All right. And she's here to tell us how we can cope with all of these issues as concerns our mental health. And that is Ayodeji, Michael, Oni, Mtish. I think I prefer to use Mtish because it's tush. Okay, so Mtish helps us to, put the diagnosis of the several mental illnesses and their categories into perspective so we can understand what we're dealing with. And so she's here to help us understand all these areas that there is a lacuna, the porosities involved when it comes to mental health. So Mtish, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here again.
So before we proceed, I actually want us to watch this clip on these celebrities. They entertain us. They're always on our screens and we love them. I'm actually crushing on one of them. Let's watch them express themselves on how they went through their own mental crisis, their own dilemma in that regard.
Yesterday, the news broke of DJ Twitch, I think that's how it's pronounced, his passing, suicide. And it was a very sad news, in his 40s, committed suicide. But I can absolutely relate to that. Sometimes when they say, "Oh boy, how are you? How are you doing?" I'm fine. How's it going? I'm one day, oh, nice one, hey. It's never really fine, as we say, I'm fine. Sometimes it's always more than that. Men, we go through a lot as men, even as women also, but speaking about men, it's crazy. I remember in 2017, I had a series of tweets that I went on to delete. It was very suicidal. Someone called me a year later and said, "Can I go and delete those tweets?" Because I was going through a lot. I was overwhelmed. I didn't understand what I was. I was thinking of career too much. I was thinking, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Relationship, I was stressed. Am I doing the right thing? Am I with the right person? Is this working? Is this not working? What's all this stress? Am I not the peace? Am I? So many thoughts in my mind. Work was overwhelming. Just too much. And at a point, I could not take it. I felt so useless, not enough, incompetent. Even though it was the contrary, it was the opposite of how I felt, but genuinely I was beating myself up too much. Then I started to tweet randomly, and I was very close to actually, jumping into the bridge or just taking my life. And that it took the grace of God for me to scale through that, And here's the thing, I usually bottle up, I don't share stuff. I learned to become better with doing that. And I'm just sending a word out to every man out there. Look, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but hey, always talk to someone.
Voice notes on WhatsApp. Say, baby, manana yala. Mane kwetegum. Just allow me to come back. I'll be taking my medicine. I promise. And then he said to me, that's just the point I wanted you to get. Because what is happening to you has happened to many people. It's happening to many people. So you don't let it ruin you. Just recently, there's the popular IVD story. If anybody followed it. Bimbo is late now. But I recognize myself a lot in Bimbo, who is dead. All that aggression and violence and endless nagging. It's a mental imbalance. Like that. You can't be so crazy you pour kerosene or fuel around about your house and then you put it on fire and expect it not to burn. It will burn, but it will burn you too. I have this injury to show for all the times that I smashed floor tiles, was breaking windows so I could jump out. I'm just trying to say that so many people are here listening to me and they're just like me. Some of them know about it, some don't know. So I'm bringing you the same gospel that Jesus brought to the people. Consciousness, awareness, knowingness. What you don't know is your mountain. From the moment...
Now that was Kunle Remi and Chacha Ekefani. If you recall the story that surrounded that time when this incident trended, when Chacha was all over the place and it seemed like it was a family problem, she eventually disclosed that she was bipolar. Kunle Remi just admitted that at some point he had a whole mental breakdown. So it tells you that there is no one who is isolated. There is no one who doesn't feel this, especially in this part of the world. Now, Entish, I'm sure you heard these two celebrities. I'm sure there are a couple of other celebrities who have not disclosed their mental states. But for Chacha Ekefani, I don't know if you recall when that incident occurred, where a lot of people thought it was her husband who was maltreating her at some point, and she ran out on the road. A lot of commuters surrounded her, pouring water on her head. She was shouting and crying, and people were wondering what was going on. Some people thought she was acting a movie at the time. Other persons thought that, no, this is not normal. Something spiritual has happened, because we all know how Nollywood can be sometimes. What would you call the kind of scenario she experienced?
All right, so on the very empathic side when it comes to celebrities and a lot of influencers, because the truth is they have a lot they are dealing with, and there's so much of expectations from them. They have tons of followers that expect things from them. They expect them. They've put them at a particular standard, and there's a lot of things that people expect them to figure out that they haven't figured out themselves. And so someone did not just become a celebrity over the night. Yeah. You were first a human, just like everyday person, before you became a celebrity or an influencer.
So in this particular regard, what types of mental illness do we have? How would I categorize them?
All right, so it starts from, like I was telling you last week, the other time, I said it starts from being stressed. From being stressed, you begin to have panics. From having panics, it could degrade to having phobias, restlessness. Then it becomes anxiety. From anxiety, it becomes full-blown depression. So we don't just become depressed. The word depression has been overrated. A lot of people go, I'm depressed. No, you're just stressed. The point of depression is that point where there are now symptoms that people can easily see and people can relate with. That's the point of depression. And now depression are also in stages. From just being depressed, you can now become acutely depressed, severely depressed, where you now have the psychosis, you have the schizophrenia, you have the bipolar disorder. So at that point, it has become a full-blown depression, that people now begin to behave out of the norm. They become uncontrollable at some point. They begin to do weird things. They hear things from inside and they just do it. They begin to hallucinate. They have delusions, they have dreams, nightmares. At that point, they don't even sleep. We have the sleeping disorder where people deal with what we call narcolepsy, what we call azemia, where people don't sleep anymore. Some pretend as if they are sleeping, but they are not sleeping. You see them, you just think they are taking a nap. No, they are actually lost in thoughts. So at this point, it has become full-blown, and at that point, people have lost control of their self, of their thoughts, of their personality.
Now, Mtish, let's come back to gender. I know that when it comes to mental health, it's all encapsulated. Even a child whom you think shouldn't be bothered by certain things is already getting into that state of mental illness. But women, there's this pressure, would I call it societal pressure on women, from childbirth to women now taking the roles of men in their homes, being the ones responsible, to, would I say, societal expectation, especially in their corporate environment where they work amongst their peers, even amongst their colleagues as their own same gender. And it feels that in recent times, women are the ones who are tilting more into the state of mental health illness, that is mental depression. So how do we try to help the situation, or how do we encourage women not to slip into that dark hole when it begins to display itself?
Okay, so I need to first correct the impression that women slip more into mental health issues.
Okay.
No, the symptoms shows more in women.
All right.
And so that's why in the research, we have more men, attempt suicide. Women contemplate. When it gets to the point where a woman attempts suicide, she has gotten to the peak where she can no longer take it. But men, because men are logical, women are emotional. And most times we are unable to control these emotions. We're unable to hold down these emotions. So it shows more, the symptoms shows more in women. It doesn't show in men, because men learn to mask.
To compartmentalize.
Yes, they mask this thing. So they carry this facade that makes them look like they are fine when they're not fine. So the next thing a man thinks about is just end it. So we have more suicide attempts
By men.
in men
Rather than women.
rather than women. Women only show symptoms more. Men don't really show symptoms unless a man comes out to say that this is what I'm dealing with. You hardly can tell that a man is dealing with depression.
Like the recent Buka experience,
Yeah.
where an individual who seems to have everything in place, who seems to be good financially, has a good financial standing, good business acumen, the right connections, and that's the owner of Buka Hut.
Yeah,
and then all of a
corporate
sudden
man.
the news broke out that he is dead and that it was based on suicide. So in scenarios where you have the elite, individuals who seem to have everything, supposedly, the things that I and you want, the things that we crave, that we are actually doing this work for, and then this individual has it, but somehow they're not satisfied. They seem to be thirsty for something they themselves don't even know they want. How do you help such an individual in that particular state of mind?
Now that's another fallacy. That's when you have money, you have everything. No. It's at the point when you have money that you know that money is not everything. So
You
for
hear?
a lot of people
I hear
that
it.
feel that once I have money, I'm okay, I cannot have mental health issues. Welcome to mental health issues. Because it's at that point you realize that there are a lot of vacuums that has not been filled up and that cannot be filled up with money. But I know a lot of people would argue this, oh, let me have the money first. Well, if you think that having money is the solution to mental health issues, then these people, the celebrities and all of the people that are coming out now to disclose that they have dealt with this issue or they are still dealing with this issue should not. Reason being that there are a lot of things that has been there. I was telling you the other time that this thing is as a result of accumulation from childhood. A lot of people have been abused. A lot of people have been stigmatized. A lot of people didn't have it, they didn't have a right upbringing, while they were growing up. So a lot of things have been distorted with our growing that were not fixed or that have not been fixed. So these things begin to accumulate. The society adds to it. friends adds to it. Breakups, heartbreaks, and all of these things adds to it. So all of these things becomes complicated. Then when there's a trigger, there's what we call emotional outburst. People begin to, break down, and you feel that, oh, why should you break down? You have everything. You don't lack. You're a celebrity. You're a figure. Everyone wants to be like you. No, that's not what the person is. The person is an entity that has been formed with the circumstances that has made him before he or she became a celebrity or an influencer that we are admiring. Okay, so we need to look into that aspect and not just judge them based on what we see, based on the influence and the affluence and the fact that we feel that they have all of these material things that makes them look like they are, complete and perfect.
So kindly explain to us how some of these symptoms, affect our mental health. Symptoms like restlessness, fatigue, poor concentration, tense muscles, interrupted sleep, and a bout of anxiety symptoms. How do these things contribute to mental health?
Okay, so these are symptoms. These These things show when issues have begun to happen inward. Okay, so when you become restless, there are a lot of signs. These are just signs. There are a lot of signs, and it differs in people. Your personality, would determine the kind of symptom that each person would show. For some persons, they just become restless. They can't just sit in a place for a long time, and you're just wondering, why is this person restless? So we need to be sensitive to people around us. Some people just become withdrawn. They just isolate themselves. You hear people say, no, I'm antisocial. I do just like going out. I'm an introvert. Yes, you could be an introvert, but that does not mean that you should not socialize. That does not mean that you don't have friends that you relate with. That does not mean that you don't have good interpersonal relationship. Even as an introvert, you could enjoy your privacy, but it doesn't deprive you from having friends. But the moment you begin to, cut off from people, you don't want to be with people, you just want to be all by yourself, those are signs to watch out for.
Especially for the term depression.
Yes.
Because depression seems to be the, prominent diagnosis for mental health that a lot of people slip into and are not aware that they're already slipping into it. And so in the process where it's happening, since that's the norm, how do you know that you're slipping into depression?
Just what I'm talking about now. These are the signs you look out for.
What if this individual normally is an introvert? Someone who normally doesn't socialize, always working, and if they're not working, they always try to occupy themselves with something. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them, but they're literally slipping into depression. For such persons, how do you know that they're depressed or they're getting into that state of depression?
Okay, so withdrawal is not the only sign to look out for.
Okay.
You could just want to be by yourself, enjoy your privacy. You just want to do your work, and you don't just want noise, or you just So there are people like that, introverts, for example. But like I said, you can be an introvert, and it doesn't mean that you don't have friends. It doesn't mean you don't have people you relate with. Okay, they might not just be much. But there are other signs, apart from being withdrawn. We have the restlessness, we have the poor concentration, the fact that the moment you just see that you can no longer concentrate, you have distorted thoughts. Different thoughts just occupies you at random moments when you're supposed to be doing something. So you need to check your track.
So how do your loved ones, because most times when these things happen, the individual going through it doesn't know that anything different is happening.
True.
It is those that, stay with them or those who work with them that begin to observe some certain changes, and it starts in a very subtle manner. So how do you help like an average individual who seems to know that person, maybe from a distance, but know that something doesn't seem right, to put that in that person's life that, hey, something is wrong, you need to check yourself out?
All right. So in the treatment of mental health disorder, we cannot do without support system.
Okay.
Yes. So most times when people even come to us for therapy, you need to have a support system. Even if you're a working client, you observe those things yourself, and you want therapy, you need to provide a support system, because you cannot go through the journey on your own. Now, what the support system does is they're the ones that help notice the signs You know, they're the ones that help see if you're improving. If they are the ones that even notice it in the first place. Because like you said, most people going through this issue, going through these stuffs, they hardly even know. They feel that they are living their normal life, even though there's some of them that know, but they cannot place it. You know, they don't know that it's actually a mental health breakdown. So what the people around them need to do is to be sensitive. Be sensitive to people around you. There's a particular woman I don't want to mention now.
Okay.
The case was all over, the issue was all over then. She committed suicide, you know, working in a good place,
Yes,
earning well,
yes,
you
yes.
know. And she came back from church and she took sniper or something, killed herself, living well, working in a good,
Yeah, I remember that
yeah,
case. A woman who,
a
although
particular telecommunications
yes,
company.
yes. Could it
You
be?
know.
I mean, questions arose as to possibly because she's older and she hasn't gotten married, or that a couple of other things, and she's in frequent church attendee. She attends church services. She's involved in a lot of church activities. Wow, I remember that particular case.
So the issue with that is we are not telling you that mental health stability means that you will not have issues. No. It doesn't mean that you will not have crisis. The only thing mental health stability tells you is, or makes you do, is that you tell yourself that even in the face of those crises, I will be sane. Yes.
All right. Do give us tips, at least the general tips, for anyone who even doesn't know that they are experiencing any form of mental illness. Someone like me, I feel I'm normal, but who knows? You can never tell. What are the tips generally to help take care of myself?
Okay. So your self-esteem is key. Yes. Now, most times people dealing with mental health issue don't know that they are dealing with inferiority complex or superiority complex. So the complex issue comes to play.
All right.
These are one of the things that forms the foundation block of mental health. So one tip I'm going to drop today is, please watch out, you know, for yourself when it comes to your esteem issue. Make sure that you have a balanced self-esteem, not a high self-esteem, no, balanced. Because when you say I, is you're you know, in some ways you're tending towards being proud.
Okay.
Yes.
It shouldn't be about
apparently
I as the
individual.
it should be about maybe you and every other person.
Exactly. Because when we say something is high in this part of the world, it's, you know, regarding towards something that is not proportional, something that is not right. High voltage, high temperature, high. So instead of saying I, personally, I like to say just have a healthy self-esteem, a balanced self-esteem, wherein you know that you matter to yourself than you matter to anybody.
That's good. You matter to yourself than you matter to anybody. Remember that you can participate on You and Your Mental Health. All you need to do is to subscribe to @VOPTV on YouTube. Now, when you subscribe, you will definitely get notified in any edition or segment of the program that comes up. It also tells you that you can send us your comments right on there and ask relevant questions. Now, if you do not want that public disclosure, especially if there are some certain things you really want to know personally, all you need to do is to reach out to MTish on
@Ayodeji Michael Oni on Instagram, at MTish Michael Oni on Facebook.
Now, if there are also topics as regards mental health that you want us to discuss right on here and shed more light, you send us a message right on YouTube, or rather you can actually send a comment and we'll definitely divest it right here on You and Your Mental Health. My name is Esther Nwachukwu, and that's a wrap on today's segment of this particular interesting program. See you next time.